OutKick 360 is back alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Kuharski. I'm Jonathan Hutton, Lance Lee, Jacob Swanson, David Reed, the chairman of the board. Draft day is here. The NFL draft tonight. Complete coverage over the next 2 hours as we go through picks 1 through 32 with all of the latest headlines and much, much more. But we begin today's show with an offer for new FanDuel users. Get $100 whenever Trevor Lawrence is drafted to the Jacksonville Jaguars tonight around 8:10, 8:20 Eastern time on NFL Network or ESPN or ABC, wherever you're watching. You can log in right now, FanDuel.com/OK360. You bet $5, you win $100 whenever Trevor Lawrence is selected number 1 to Jacksonville. You can then go back to the app where you'll have an extra $100 and bet that throughout the night or cash out. FanDuel.com/OK360 for new users. Go do it. Guys,
quite the deal.
The draft tonight. Here we go.
We made it, gentlemen. We're here. We've arrived. It's one of my favorite sports days of the year. I'm excited, ready to go. All of the talk, all of the mock drafts, all the speculation about rising and falling and everything else, it's over with now. Now we have an actual draft that we'll be able to discuss more in depth tomorrow.
Still a long time till pick 3. This show will go
such
fast.
A Debbie Downer.
This show will go fast. The rest of the day will go slow up until San Francisco's on the clock. I'm not big on the way they draw things out. I'm not big on the fact that there'll be, 15 minutes of Jacksonville on the clock for a pick that we've all known since Jacksonville won the number 1 pick in the draft.
Well, they'll be on the clock for 10 minutes, but it'll take 5 minutes before Goodell goes to the podium.
Goes to the podium to put them on the clock, and so that pick will be made 15 minutes after the show starts. But, hey, after that, there's a lot of intrigue in this first round, starting at pick 3. And we like that intrigue. It makes for great TV. And, they're not going to be tipping picks. Unless somebody goes completely rogue, which would be a big story, one that we'll be talking about tomorrow.
Which we root for.
Yeah, I'd love to see somebody go rogue.
I will say this is one of the few events that I don't mind them drawing it out. It comes once a year, and it's a television production. I mean, it's not action. It's not a game, right? We love games, obviously, but this is something that's meant to be drawn out, especially in the first round. Once you get to the later round, let's keep it going, which they do for the most part. They're just showing picks at the bottom of the screen and talking about something else. But for this first night, I like the process and the build-up. I like checking in on different broadcasts and seeing how they handle it, seeing the pre-produced pieces that they have ready to go. I kind of enjoy that part of it. This night, to me, is one of the few nights I'm okay with it lasting a long time.
Hutton, tell us about the forecast for
Cleveland is going to be rainy. I think there's an 85% chance of rain in downtown Cleveland around 8 to 9 p.m. tonight. So it's very unfortunate.
Lake effect. Very
unfortunate with the weather. And then by Saturday, whenever we get to rounds 4 through 7, sunny. Sunny in Cleveland for the weekend. If you want to go and have a good time for the NFL draft, go for the weekend and not for round 1 tonight.
I've been to the state of Ohio many times. Some with you guys. Hutton and I went and covered the NCAA tournament in Dayton.
Our famous All Rise trip.
Well, we often joke that the sun never shines on the state
very
of
gray.
Ohio. It's always very gray. It's about 45 degrees, I feel like, year-round, or at least every time I go. But there was one day in Cleveland where it was beautiful.
When we had brunch?
We drove down to the lake to have lunch close by downtown. We were in Canton for
glorious.
And it was a beautiful day. And that's the one memory I have of Cleveland is actual good weather. And they're not going to experience that.
Me and my homeland, it called to me, my birthplace.
Here is the draft order that we'll see tonight live from Cleveland, where Jacksonville will be on the clock first, followed by the New York Jets, where they're expected to select BYU quarterback Zach Wilson. And then the draft gets really intriguing. The 49ers trading up from pick number 12. What do they do
if
with
they're alive?
The pick at quarterback? And which direction do they go? Whether that be Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Justin Fields. Atlanta, they have been fielding calls and taking those calls for teams trying to trade up, reportedly trying to trade up. And so far, they have not accepted any offers. They stay at 4 overall. Cincinnati, mock drafts have been going offensive tackle or wide receiver at number 5, but again, whatever Atlanta does with Kyle Pitts, if they choose to go quarterback and surprise some people at quarterback with Arthur Smith in Atlanta, what does Kyle Pitts end up doing in Cincinnati paired with Joe Burrow, or does he fall to Miami, who currently picks 6th tonight? Detroit, Carolina, and Denver, with Carolina and Denver in a trade yesterday for Teddy Bridgewater. And then the Dallas Cowboys round out the top 10. Look at the NFC East. Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, 10, 11, 12. And Washington rumored to be one of the teams that wants to move up. They're drafting 19th overall. They would need to get and move up some if they were going after a quarterback, like they're rumored to be after. But it's tough to figure out what teams in front of you want to do, especially if you're all in the same division. And we know how bad the NFC East is. That is an intriguing set of picks, 10 through 12
Scroll
tonight.
back to the top, if you will, Jacob. I just think I don't see Atlanta going quarterback, but if they do, if they were to take Lance or Fields there, and the feeling has been Lance, right? I still think Cincinnati or Miami could be in prime position there, because I think Detroit, Carolina, or Denver, even Denver having made the trade, could take a quarterback or could be in prime position there, starting with Detroit, for somebody to come up and get him. I think we should never be surprised. It's trending that way. We see what's going on with the top 3. People want quarterbacks. If they like quarterbacks, no matter where they have them numerically on their overall board, they're scored up. And until you have the quarterback, you can't do things. If you're one of these teams like Washington, if you're New England that's changed into a go-for-it mode and you feel like it's time to go get the next guy, I think you come up to 7, 8, 9 to get the guy that's left. And to me, Justin Fields is the story of this draft, unless, as we suspect, maybe San Francisco is playing games with the Mac Jones thing there and they take him. But if they stay true to the Mac Jones rumor, I think Justin Fields becomes the story of this. Somebody's got to come up and get him. I can't imagine that he drifts and drifts and drifts. Somebody's coming to get him.
And the big story yesterday, as we signed off, right after we left the show, was Teddy Bridgewater in the deal to Denver. I'm curious about what 2 deals, Sam Darnold in the Panthers and now Teddy Bridgewater in Denver, what does that really do to their desire to still find a quarterback? Because I have a sense that maybe even Denver, even with Teddy Bridgewater as insurance, will still want to trade up, or still, even if they're at 9, draft a quarterback in that spot. And I don't think Carolina's completely out of the quarterback market either, even though they have Sam Darnold. Those are, to me, number 3 is clearly the pivot point of the draft with what San Francisco does at quarterback with that pick. We know they're going to take a quarterback. We don't know which one. And then after that, 8 and 9, Carolina, Denver. Does either team move up? Do they try to do something at quarterback there? I think that's a really interesting point in this draft.
That Denver deal for Bridgewater was cheap. 6th-round pick, and Carolina ate, $7 million of the $10 million salary? To me, Hutton, that doesn't change what you're doing. I mean, it gives you insurance. If you don't get a quarterback, you've got Locke and Bridgewater, so you've got 2 decent options, right? You're not dead.
I think they're dealing Drew Lock this weekend.
Yeah, maybe. But I don't know that Drew Lock has a huge... Drew Lock is somebody get a backup, right?
Yeah. He's a backup
But
option.
that doesn't take Denver out of the quarterback market by any means.
Well, Hutton, you brought up 10, 11, 12 in that NFC East trifecta of picks. Everything I've been reading, I'm trying to find consistent threads of what people think a direction a team is going in. And to me, that 10, 11, 12 is pretty consistent. Patrick Surtain to Dallas, Kwity Paye to the Giants, and then a receiver. Whatever the best receiver is left to the Eagles at 12 has been a pretty consistent grouping of players.
Surtain, though, could go to Carolina and throw that off if Carolina takes the first defensive player, and I've seen that some places. So all it takes is, and we know this, one thing to foil that triple play that you're talking about. The other thing on the quarterback, final thought, Carolina hasn't exercised Darnold's 5th-year option. They're waiting to do so until they see what unfolds. And there's a lot of talk that he could be traded again based on what Carolina does. And we know consistently that the tone from David Tepper, the owner of the Panthers, is he wants a home run quarterback. You know, if Justin Fields is sitting there, and they like him, they might not be done at quarterback.
I have a feeling the Panthers are going to give Darnold more weapons around him. They're pairing Matt Rule and Joe Brady with Sam Darnold and saying, let's actually put some coaching behind you. You have Christian McCaffrey coming back healthy. They can use offensive line help. They could use a corner. They could be in position to draft Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle and pair him with Christian McCaffrey. There are too many options available for them, and they're closer than what people think.
They're pretty close. They got a defense.
Atlanta's
that's up
in a
and coming.
rebuild mode. The Bucs are trying to run it back, and the Saints don't have Drew Brees anymore.
And there's an extra
sitting
playoff
there.
team.
And there's an extra playoff team. So Carolina's sitting there with the chance to go all in, at least for a year or two, with their quarterback to see what they have. They trade away Teddy Bridgewater. I think they could draft a quarterback later in the draft, but they have P.J. Walker on their roster as a backup right now.
Solid.
Seemingly
solid. Will Greer also.
I think they're better than what people think, just based on having Darnold there instead of Bridgewater. Going back, though, to what Chad's saying about 10, 11, 12 and how all the mocks seem to be in sync. The problem with that is there's a lot of assumptions with what Detroit's going to do with the 7th overall pick, and that's where the draft order really begins to adjust. Because if Detroit goes corner, that affects what Denver does at 9. That affects what Dallas does at 10 because that takes a corner off the board for Dallas. If they take a wide receiver, that affects what the Giants may do. That definitely affects what Philadelphia will do at 12. Detroit was reportedly one of the teams that called Atlanta to see if they could move up ahead of Cincinnati to draft Jamar Chase. Not a quarterback, but to draft Jamar Chase ahead of Cincy. And the asking price is too steep because you're going to pay a quarterback price to move up that high and get the fourth quarterback off the board. And there's also thought that Detroit is open for business. I think they have 6 total picks in this draft. They can move back and still end up with a corner, a wide receiver, an offensive lineman, and they can go defense as well. Micah Parsons may be able to be there if they trade back out of the top 10. And if that's the case, then a team's moving up ahead of all the run on the rest of the QBs. And if they trade down, I think they're trading down and still in position to draft Micah Parsons or a Jalen Phillips.
They could also conceivably take Sewell or Slater, right? The offensive
Sure.
line is on their list.
I mean,
You're right. They're the most
position.
They're the most position versatile team.
Well, that's
maybe
where
in this bunch.
That really
'Cause they need
affects
everything.
what the rest of where we get to the teens. That affects how you position in the trade up for positional players.
They're a pivot
Yeah,
point.
the
for
two
sure.
most common things I've seen with them is either receiver or offensive tackle. But they have so many needs. You want to talk about 2 different teams in different spots that draft right next to each other? Detroit at 7 and then Carolina at 8. And I'm with you. I think Carolina's closer to being good, and I think Detroit is just a miserable team right now, especially after dealing Matthew Stafford, and they're sort of in this purgatory
recovery
of what they need to do, and they have a lot of options. And I have been surprised we haven't been hearing more about the possibility of Detroit being a team that trades down to get more picks, because what they need right now are more quality picks. I don't know that they need the 7th overall pick as much as they need more picks because they have so many needs.
They need the 7th overall pick if Justin Fields is there. They can draft Justin Fields, and I think they're an underrated team in the quarterback discussion. You know, we know San Francisco's after a quarterback. Currently, they're going to pay $24 million in base salary to Garoppolo. Goff's getting the same amount in Detroit, and they traded for him. So, is Detroit in the mix? And again,
Neither of them are
we
very
had this
good.
discussion earlier in the week. Don't really know about the head coach, general manager pairing. It's tough to pinpoint and assume what any of these teams up top are going to do. What do the Broncos do if Justin Fields is available at 9?
Here's one thing about the Broncos that I've put some thought into after reading this, and I think maybe it was Matt Miller. So you've got George Payton coming in as a new GM, and this is where the GM and the coach off schedule starts to come into play. So Vic Fangio could very well be in his last year. So is there some danger? There is some danger to drafting the quarterback in this draft for a coach you're going to hire next year, right? Ideally, you would like to be drafting that quarterback with the coach in a year. So do you factor in, hey, this coach might be done. So I just got you 2 quarterbacks, or we've got an incumbent quarterback. I got you another quarterback. Let's draft a really good player here who's going to be good no matter who the coach is next year, no matter what direction we're going. And if we need a quarterback next year, we'll go in it together with me and the new coach with a voice in it, rather than drafting a quarterback this year that somebody's going to have to inherit. Who he may not love. Do you have foresight like that?
Peyton was elevated to general manager to save the quarterback position for the Denver Broncos. That starts tonight. That does not start a year from now. And Teddy Bridgewater and what they gave up for him is similar to what the Titans traded for Ryan Tannehill. Is it less?
They gave up a 6th, not a 4th.
The only difference is Teddy Bridgewater currently goes to Denver thinking he's in the mix to start. Ryan Tannehill knew he wasn't going to.
And he hasn't had the success that Tannehill had at his best in Miami.
That's really the only difference between the two mentalities right now.
I just don't buy that you draft a quarterback for a coach. If you're the GM, like if you're uncertain about your coach,
you draft a quarterback for the franchise.
But also, if it's Justin Fields, let's say, who's there, and you love him. Well, any coach can work with Justin Fields if they're a good coach and they hire a good offensive staff.
I get what you're saying, but look at Josh Rosen in Arizona and what's happening with teams quickly. Look at Sam Darnold and the Jets.
But Josh Rosen is not very good. That's the difference. Like, if Josh Rosen was great and had a great rookie year, then Cliff Kingsbury would have come in and said, yeah, I can work with this guy. Instead, he saw it and said, I didn't like this guy in college. I don't like him now. If it's a good quarterback, point being, we're not going to wait on the next head coach to draft a quarterback is what I'm saying. You can't do that. And I just really am having a hard time coming to grips with Kyle Shanahan actually believing Mac Jones is better than Justin Fields.
I've said that from the beginning.
I don't get it.
I've said it from the beginning.
I think Mac Jones is a good stay in the pocket when everything's perfect, delivered on time, accurate quarterback. I don't think he's ever going to be as great as what Justin Fields is going to be in this league and what his potential is in this league. And I see Kyle Shanahan as a great offensive mind. And again, I bet that Justin Fields will be the pick because I don't think Kyle Shanahan would not take the best available quarterback, and Fields is the best available quarterback there. And I think Kyle Shanahan can work with any quarterback. I think his offense is one that he can mold it into the strengths of the quarterback. I'm having a real hard time coming to grips that San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan think that Mac Jones is the better quarterback.
If Mac Jones is all that Kyle Shanahan requires, Kyle Shanahan's got a huge head about the importance of the coach over the quarterback, I think. I'm with you. I need more dynamic at third in the draft. I need more of a franchise changer than Mac Jones looks to be. And I think he'd be a good quarterback, 12th, 14th, 15th in the league. But if you're drafted third overall, I need better than 12th, 14th, 15th in the league.
I like Mac Jones at 15 to the Patriots a lot better than I do with number 3 to the 49ers.
I tend to agree.
Here's from Todd McShay last night at ESPN. At Trey Lance's second pro day last week, Shanahan and general manager John Lynch met with North Dakota State coaches to figure out how Lance would handle the intricacies of Shanahan's offense, including lengthy verbiage. Coaches explained how Lance's ability to verbalize lengthy calls, get the offense organized, and set protections is a strength. And then they go on to say the North Dakota State coaches spent significant time with San Francisco and Atlanta throughout this entire process. There will at least be a mild surprise in Fargo if both franchises pass on him tonight.
Who was the second one?
Atlanta.
Now, they didn't talk to Nick Saban at all, San Francisco coaches, when they were there. So they know enough about Mac Jones in a big program, and they don't know enough, which makes sense, of a kid at a small school who only played, 16, 17 games. But also when I hear that verbiage thing, you know what you can do there with any quarterback? Not have 15 words in your play call. That's my solution for any quarterback.
I think so much of it is just they're trying to see if you can problem solve.
Yeah.
With all of this, I mean, it's just they could tweak it to fit the quarterback and shrink some of the words or shrink some of the calls and all that, but they want to see if you're capable of handling it more than anything else.
Hit us up on Twitter at OutKick360. That's where you can interact with the show today. If you're watching on YouTube, we hope you'll subscribe and hit the bell so you get the alerts every time that OutKick360 goes live. Share the post on Facebook Live as well if you're watching throughout the day. We're live over the next 2 hours talking all things NFL draft. Coming up, we will discuss the other skill position players throughout this first round and where we think they may go. We'll give some FanDuel prop bet odds and much more straight ahead. OutKick 360 on draft day.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Really excited to finally have some in-person OutKick VIP events. We're at 6th and Peabody, Old Smoky, Yeehaw Brewery. Awesome day, great questions, good to shake everybody's hand. It's just good to be able to get out and see everybody.
We love to meet with the people that make us possible as a show, the people that tune in, the people that watch, the people that listen.
A lot of these VIPs interact with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. And now we get a chance to come out and hang out, watch games, and interact with them the same way we would interact with the three of us on a daily basis. It's awesome.
If you're at a VIP event, you're going to hear more about the inside jokes, stuff that goes on behind the scenes. You can ask us anything. We want to be with listeners and viewers as much as possible, so we're thrilled.
Looking forward to doing a lot more of these VIP events as we continue to grow.
It's an incredible experience. I would advise everyone out there, if you're a fan of OutKick or OutKick 360, to sign up and be a VIP.
Back on OutKick 360 alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Kuharski. I'm Jonathan Hutton. The NFL draft is tonight, which means you have until tonight to take advantage of free money through FanDuel. FanDuel.com/OK360. You go hit that link and you can bet on Trevor Lawrence to be the #1 overall pick. You bet up to $5. You can win $100 if Trevor Lawrence is drafted #1 overall. This is open until the selection tonight. He's the odds-on favorite by a mile to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. You go sign up. Restrictions apply. It's only available in certain states, but it includes Tennessee and Indiana and others. FanDuel.com/OK360 to take advantage. Speaking of FanDuel, some of the player odds and props tonight. If you're a current user like the three of us, FanDuel.com/OK360. Click on NFL Draft and the icon. Go to player props. You can see the over-unders. We're going to show some of them right now. Trey Lance and Mac Jones. We start with Trey Lance. Over-under pick 6.5 tonight, guys. What would you go with?
I'm going over on Trey Lance. I think that he's going more in the 9 range, possibly to Denver. So I'm going to take the odds. That would be in my favor of betting that, even though that is not the favorite. And I'm going to say over for 6.5.
I'm going over. I think he starts at 7 in that Detroit slot via trade. That would be the earliest.
Yeah, I think this is it would be a surprise at this point if San Francisco goes Trey Lance. For me, I would take the over 6.5. And Mac Jones.
So we're all eliminating
Would it be a surprise if Atlanta took him?
For me it would, because I think Kyle Pitts needs to be the pick for Atlanta.
That's the key on this.
Yeah, that's where Vegas
More
is
so
saying.
than San Francisco.
Do you think Atlanta drafts him, or does Atlanta trade out to allow another team to jump ahead of a team like Detroit?
And they'd be taking Lance, not Fields.
Right. If you're buying into Trey Lance being the 4th best quarterback or the 4th quarterback off the board here, because Mac Jones, what you're betting on the over/under is 3.5. And
That's San Francisco, yes or no.
That's right. If you think San Francisco takes him or not, you would take the under 3.5 on this.
I'm over, and Chad and I are together on this. We're just having a hard time thinking that San Francisco made this big move and ultimately decided that Mac Jones is a dynamic, game-changing quarterback worth all the capital that they gave up to go up there.
I think Mac Jones is going 15th to New England. I take the over on that. I don't see it at number 3.
Mac Jones threw for 4,500 yards last year at Alabama. He set an FBS record for a single season completion percentage.
He was great.
78% completion percentage. 2020 first team All-American and a Heisman Trophy finalist. And he was the nation's top quarterback. He won the top quarterback award last year, the Davey O'Brien Award. If Kyle Shanahan's making the call in San Fran, it's not John Lynch.
Yeah.
It's Kyle Shanahan.
He hired Lynch.
If Kyle Shanahan wants to run play action and wants to build around a guy that's in the pocket and structure of an offense, then Mac Jones makes sense. But if you want someone that's going to be more bootleg, Justin Fields or Trey Lance makes more sense. But
And they run a lot of boots in that system.
I got to be honest, no matter who he selects, I'm going to be high on, because I think Kyle Shanahan's offense makes the quarterback extremely valuable no matter where he's coaching.
I agree with that.
I
But
think
you on the over? Or on
the comparison is
I'm on the under.
you think they're taking?
Well, the comparison is Joe Burrow in small sample size, but just video game-like numbers. With Mac Jones and Joe Burrow in back-to-back years, they put up the best quarterback statistical seasons in history. And I look at it and say, which one do I think is the more talented player? I think it's Joe Burrow. And I think Joe Burrow can do more even if things break down. Mac Jones isn't doing anything when things break down. And this is not – it gets old. Well, look at all the talent around him. But, I mean, you got to factor that in, that at Alabama this past year, there weren't as many times where he was forced to do something that wasn't there with that offense and the players he had around him, the protection he had in front of him. Joe Burrow, I could say the same thing. They were just as talented at LSU the year before. But we got to see Joe Burrow do a little bit more off script. He could take off and run and get something when needed also. Not that he's going to be asked to run, but by the very nature of the NFL and how they're trying to affect the quarterback, you are going to have to do something that's off schedule and off script at some point. I would take Joe Burrow over Mac Jones in this comparison. I'm taking Justin Fields over Mac Jones for that reason.
They have been, over the years, it's been tough to keep the San Francisco pick under wraps with Shanahan and Lynch. And not that they're leaking it on purpose, but when they traded up from 12 to 3, the immediate response at the time, was a month ago, was they're after Trey Lance. And within 30 minutes of us going off the air, because this happened at 12:45 Eastern, within 30 minutes of us going off the air that day, the national media switched to Mac Jones. And since then, we've been in this news spin cycle on what they're going to do. But as of a month ago, Mac Jones was who they were moving up for. And on draft day, Mac Jones is the odds-on favorite for Kyle Shanahan's quarterback option at pick number 3. It's hard to ignore where the news was and where we are now, and that we've almost completed the circle. And if it's someone else, we should be surprised based on what was reported then and what's being reported today.
That's totally fair. I want to believe that it's not Jones. That's part of it for me.
It's impossible to ignore Vegas. I'll say that. The fact that I got Justin Fields at plus 700 2 days ago, and Mac Jones is the odds-on favorite now, tells me that something is up with Mac Jones and the 49ers.
Justin Fields, speaking of the quarterback, his odds for his selection tonight, over-under on the pick. We're about to see it from FanDuel. There it is. Over-under 7.5 for Justin Fields. Keep in mind, the Detroit Lions select 7th overall.
Can I hedge?
Sure.
So I want to go over on Mac Jones and over on Fields to ease the pain.
I think that you're crazy if you think both of those quarterbacks are lasting past 7.5.
Under.
It's under for Justin Fields, absolutely. I'm hoping 49ers at 3 for Justin Fields, but if not, it's either Lions at 7 or someone trading up to get him. I would put a dark horse with the Atlanta Falcons at 4 and the hometown kid coming home in Justin Fields, and that being the pick to be Arthur Smith's future quarterback.
Now, I go with you. He's going by 7. If he's available at 7, he's going in that Detroit slot, if not to the Lions, to somebody that
to Washington, there. To New England. A quarterback needy team. What does Philly think of quarterback right now?
Yeah, I've seen some people giving him a slipping quarterback at 12. And they moved back from 6 to get some resources. They could conceivably move back up.
And Philly
you don't
has
know
the most
where they
picks in the
stand
draft,
with
I
Jalen
believe,
Hurts.
with 11 selections, if my math is correct on that. We go to wide receiver, Devontae Smith and Jamar Chase on the over-unders for tonight.
I think
Devontae Smith, 11.5.
I think that Devontae Smith, everybody's giving him to the Eagles at 12, and really huge consensus that Chase and Waddle are going ahead of him. So if you're buying that, it's slightly over 11.5.
Chase is going to be a Cincinnati Bengal. I'm taking the under on the 5.5. Devontae Smith, you take the under if you think he's selected ahead of Waddle. You take the over if you think Waddle goes ahead of him.
Yeah, I'm going under on Jamar Chase. I'm going over on Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith, along with Justin Fields, 2 of the most interesting prospects in this draft. Because Devontae Smith, we all would have said all college football season, and most people that covered college football would say the same thing. If you're in a schoolyard and you're taking best available player and you're just picking someone for your side, Devontae Smith is the football player you're probably taking number 1 overall in all of college football. He won the Heisman Trophy, but then he gets to the draft prospects. He's 166 pounds, which I love Devontae Smith. And I'll sit here and say also, that's awfully light for an NFL wide receiver. So I understand some of the hesitation about Devontae Smith. I think where he goes in this draft, to me, is very interesting.
This Chase at 5.5 is a referendum on the Bengals. And I do think the Bengals will take him at 5. I think it's a mistake. Unless they really think that Sewell is not good, not worthy. But if they think Sewell's the best tackle in the draft and would be a good tackle on their team, they're building the wrong way. Burrow just tore an ACL. Burrow is clearly a franchise quarterback.
Yes.
He's terrific. And you've got to protect him first and worry about who he's throwing to second. And they're operating backwards.
You start with your protection.
Yes.
It's not fun.
Out.
It's not fun. It's
Inside
not glamorous.
Right?
It's not glamorous. You're not going to get all the applause tomorrow, tonight. But it's what you have to do.
It's the inside-out approach that is tried and true in football. And I agree. That's where they should go.
Well, they have a starting left tackle in Jonah Williams.
But they need 2 tackles.
I also agree that's not where they're going to go.
Sewell is a left tackle.
Chase.
He is not a right tackle.
They can figure it out.
Jamar Chase, best year
He's terrific.
with Joe Burrow at LSU.
He's terrific. And you got two examples of that with Devontae Smith with Tua. You got potential for two big reunions here.
It is funny, though, how we discredit Joe Burrow and Mac Jones a little bit, and I'm guilty of this as well. Boy, I could put up some good numbers if I had those guys to throw to and that protection in front of me also. What about Devontae Smith putting up numbers with Mac Jones and Tua also? What about Jamar Chase with that great year with Joe Burrow throwing to him? Jamar Chase, when the going got tough, didn't come back and play with whoever the hell was throwing him the ball this year for LSU when they were terrible, getting run in the first game of the year against Mississippi State.
We have a remarkable...
The season we saw was with Joey Burrow throwing the ball to him.
You hit on something big there because we have a remarkable tendency as football fans and analysts to do this. We say, boy, Montana and Young really had it good throwing to Jerry Rice. And we never say, boy, Jerry Rice really had it good being thrown to by Montana and Young. Why do we do that?
It's also, I think about the Brady versus Manning comparison, which there's not much of a comparison now as Brady continues to play and win Super Bowls. But for a long time it was, man, if Brady had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne and those guys to throw to, what kind of numbers would he have? And on the flip side, it was, man, if Peyton had Bill Belichick in New England's system, I wonder how many Super Bowls he would have won, right? There was the back and forth of who's responsible for whom and who's responsible for whom's success. I think is always something that people go back and forth on.
That's part of what makes football fun.
Yeah.
Let's go to defense. Micah Parsons in many mock drafts slotted 7th to Detroit, and he's been pretty steady between 7 to 9, somewhere in that range. Detroit, Denver, others. Over-under for him is 12.5. Pick 12.5 tonight. So Vegas is saying they're saying the line is somewhere in the NFC East for Micah Parsons, the linebacker from Penn State.
I don't know why he hasn't been paired with the Eagles more. The Eagles, they have a need at wide receiver. Their need at linebacker is even bigger. They have poor linebackers, and they don't have long-term contract people at linebacker. I could see him going to the Eagles, ahead of a wide receiver. I could see 3 wide receivers being gone in some scenarios before the Eagles. I think the Eagles are maybe part of the reason why it's set at 12.5, the Eagles at 12. I'm really torn on this one.
I think it's over. I think Washington at 19 is one to watch if they don't trade up and get their quarterback,
Miami
or if their
at 18,
quarterback's
too,
not
with
there.
the second pick.
At 19, I think Miami is another good possibility. I think it's over. I don't think it's even honestly that close to where it is. This is one that I looked at and I immediately thought this is one that I feel pretty confident saying it's not going to be just a little bit over. It's going to be 5, 6, 7 spots after that.
I would take the over for Micah Parsons tonight too, based on the way the offense is rounding out the top 10. I mentioned this earlier this week. Slim chance, but there's a chance we could see straight offense in the top 10. For the first time ever, we've seen that.
It's all because
I
of the
wouldn't
quarterback.
bet that. There's a slim chance, though, it could happen, and because of that, Micah Parsons would slip out, and also the trade opportunities for Detroit, Carolina, and Denver now. What the moving options between 7, 8, 9, I think I would take the over for Micah Parsons here. Caleb Farley, over under 26.5 on the selection, and this simply comes down to, is he healthy or is he not?
I'll start out with this one. I have no clue even how to bet on this one. When I saw that number, I thought I could totally see a team like the Titans trading down and trading with maybe a partner like the Bills and getting him at 29 and being right around that range. I could totally see someone in the teens seeing him as the best corner prospect in the draft and being okay with the medicals.
Maybe top 10 with Carolina.
I think the swing with Caleb Farley is tremendous. I think it's, like you said, Hutton, top 10. I think it's mid-second round could be the fall off based on the medical. So this is one I just would not touch. I don't feel good about giving you just a guess on where he's going to be.
The caveat is he healthy? But if healthy, the reporters in Carolina are saying he would be the Panthers selection.
Wow. I go under. I watched some again last night. I mean, the guy is mesmerizing talent. And I watched his press conference that he had in conjunction with the Virginia Tech's Pro Day. Look, of course he's going to sell his health well, but he sold his health really well in talking through what he's gone through. I've gone back and forth. I love him, and I think ultimately talent trumps all in a draft, right? There are going to be GMs that really want to like him, and if they can get medicals, if they're going to be like, Doc, tell me this guy's okay, and if a doc tells him this guy's okay, it's going to be like a magnet. I think he's going before 27.
Yeah, I would take the under that on that as well. Kwity Paye was next on that list, the pass rusher.
It's amazing how tough these are.
And he's right in the middle of the draft, right at 16.5. And this comes, you have to factor in some of the other pass rushers here. But if you think Kwity Paye is the first or second pass rusher off the board, you take the under. If you think that there's a chance that we don't see pass rush, like this is a draft from 20 years ago, where we don't see a pass rusher selected until the back half of the first round, then Kwity Paye's fallen, and he's going well past 16.5.
We're not playing a game from 20 years ago. He's going under that. I think Kwity Paye goes around 11 to the Giants in that range.
It's funny, this is the first one of these. I didn't look specifically at 26 for Farley, but Arizona's got 16. I haven't heard Paye matched with Arizona, I don't think at all. Have I missed that? So this is one of the first ones of these I don't feel like the team at that number is a candidate for that player, at least in what we've seen broadly in the draft analyst consensus. So I'm a little confused by that. Dallas at 10, a possibility. Giants at 11, a possibility. The Vikings at 14 are paired very routinely with Jalen Phillips. So
Yes.
is he going before Jalen Phillips or after Jalen Phillips? I'm with Chad. I mean, pass rushers are a premium. They're pushed back in this draft, but they're being, not a clear one or two best guys. And like in everything in this draft, by the quarterbacks, by 5 quarterbacks conceivably being gone by 7, 8, 9. But I still think Paye's probably under 16.5.
I take the over on Kwity Paye because I think he's very scheme specific. And I'll hit on that more coming up. Finally, two more. Let's go corner. J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, and then Eric Stokes. If once you get to pick, Paul mentioned Arizona. Once you get to pick 16 with Arizona, and you start to look at team needs, 14 of the 16 teams scheduled to select all need corner. So Eric Stokes, for me, is a huge bet here. Take the under 37.5 because of the need for cornerbacks at the top of this draft. No matter how deep the position is, I would take the under on Eric Stokes at the bottom of your screen there. But here's the bigger debate. Surtain or Horn, and Surtain has been mocked a lot to Dallas. But I mentioned, I think that Detroit is in play. Carolina could be in play. Denver can be in play for corner. I would take the under on both of these players.
It shows
Horn
you.
and Surtain.
It shows you also when you see how close the margin is, 10.5 to 12.5 with J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain, how close teams view these prospects. And I could see J.C. Horn, a scenario where he's the first corner off the board, not Surtain. You're right, Hutton, that pivot point is Dallas at 10 in terms of Patrick Surtain. I have a tendency to look at all three of these. I'm dead on with you with Eric Stokes.
I think it's a great bet.
There's no way he's going past 37 in this draft. A much more difficult bet. I'm going under with both Surtain and J.C. Horn when I look at this right now because I also think those top corners, and Eric Stokes is not one of them, but those top guys, premium, they're going off quicker. There may be a lull when you get to the Newsome range after that, but these guys, they're going quick.
on
top of the Farley discussion, too.
I'm under on Stokes for sure. I like that a lot. I'm under on Surtain. I think he's the first defensive player. I think I'm over on Horn. I think Horn maybe the Chargers at 13, which again is right at the number.
Running back, Najee Harris, many think are going to the Pittsburgh Steelers if he lasts to pick number 24. Buffalo also in the mix for running back, which makes this prop interesting. Najee Harris over under 27.5. Meanwhile, Travis Etienne, 32.5, right there on the fringe, where Vegas is telling you, are you betting that a team that drafts tomorrow is willing to move up and take Etienne with the team that's willing to move out and gain picks, gain more draft capital?
I'm over on Harris. Pittsburgh needs offensive linemen to block for the running back that they're going to get, first and foremost. You can get running backs later. We all know this.
Yes.
First-round running backs, not generally a smart idea. Here's why they might be a smart idea for somebody like Etienne if you love him. Fifth-year option, and then you're done with the guy. You get him, you run him for 5 years, and you're done with him. So I could see somebody coming in or just taking him. If you're a good football team, Buffalo perhaps, that needs to be better at running back, you bite the bullet on the first-round running back late in the first round every once in a while. So I go, well, my gut says under on that. I could see him going at the end of the first round. I don't think Pittsburgh's taking a running back, though. I think Pittsburgh builds smartly, and they know about inside out, and they'll go offensive.
I would take the I would take the under on. I would take the
Harris.
Oh no, I'd take the over on both, because I think Najee Harris goes after the projection, but goes tonight in the first round. As I'm thinking to myself, if Najee Harris is at 32 to Tampa, he's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. But I think he falls back a little bit further than expected. I don't think Travis Etienne is drafted tonight.
I'm going under on both. I think that Najee Harris is going to Pittsburgh. I think it makes too much sense. And I think that Travis Etienne's going to Buffalo. I think that makes too much sense for what they need with the top two running backs on the board. So I like the under on both these guys.
And watch for the teams with multiple picks tonight, Miami and Jacksonville, among those.
Yeah.
You know who
and Baltimore.
You know what I think the Bucs should
Baltimore
do?
loves running backs.
Oh, they do.
You know what I
If
think
anyone
the Bucs
can pick a good running back, it's Baltimore.
I like the Bucs to pick the next quarterback. Get him in under Brady. I know, who knows how long Brady's going to play, but they don't have a need because they've got everybody back. If you like somebody,
Kyle Trask, Davis Mills would be in that range.
Mills is a name that's popping up a lot. If you like that guy, here's a situation where you can really afford to sit a first-round quarterback, let him learn behind the best guy, and put yourself in position to not have a monstrous quarterback dip if you successfully develop. And Bruce Arians can develop quarterbacks.
I just don't.
Bruce Arians is going to retire with Tom Brady.
No, I know, but you're handing him off organizationally. This is Jason Light.
I don't know that the league anymore is one where you just draft a guy to sit for a couple of years and waste a first-round pick. I mean, if Najee Harris is there, or Etienne is there, and you like him, and you can even make that offense even better with a complimentary player that's going to play, and you're trying to win another Super Bowl, I think you do that now. I mean, there's going to be quarterbacks available next year and the year after. So if you're picking again, you could draft your quarterback in the first round in the next couple of years.
And you might get a bite at Trask or Mills around later. Who knows?
Coming up, the very latest information on teams that could be on the move tonight. We'll go through some options on what the news says for those covering this draft in Cleveland. And we'll give you some other examples on the buy and sell with the rumor mill as this round one unfolds. That's all straight ahead on OutKick 360. So a great classic behind-the-scenes moment for the show. My bachelor party, we decided to go to Bourbon Street in New Orleans for a 3 or 4 day long weekend.
Good choice.
And we had a solid choice of a condo staying on Bourbon Street. When we arrived, we realized it was right on the line. To the left, normal Bourbon Street. To the right, the gay community.
Not that there's anything
It
wrong.
was sort of the Rio Grande of sexuality.
It was. And our balcony was the dividing line. And Paul went to purchase a ton of beads for the trip.
Want to throw some beads?
He went out to the balcony and proceeded to throw some beads. Multiple, hundreds at a time, just trying to get rid of them. He had so many. To the point where a woman walked by, or so we thought, Chad.
Could have been a woman, could have been a man, which prompted PK to yell from the balcony.
I wanted to get said person's attention, but I didn't know how. And I wanted to be polite. So I said, lady or gentleman?
And lady or gentleman received beads from one Paul Kuharsky in New Orleans.
It was beautiful.
About to discuss who could be on the move tonight in the NFL Draft. OutKick 360 across the OutKick network. We mentioned Miami as a potential trading partner, and Detroit also within the top 10. But, guys, let's discuss some other teams. Baltimore, with 2 late first-round picks. They need to replace Orlando Brown, who they just traded. That needs to be replaced at right tackle. They have also Ronnie Stanley returning from an injury. Could they be on the move? Could they package something together and go get an offensive lineman earlier in this
They're
draft?
signing Villanueva next week. He visited in the last 10 days, and it's reportedly all but a done deal that they will sign him next week. Dennis Kelly also visited, so it's possible that they sign a starter in Villanueva and sign a veteran backup and take care of offensive line with veterans right away. Now, maybe they're waiting just to see, just in case, but my perception of everything I've seen and read from Baltimore is they're intending to take care of it that way.
They are
after the
taking, they're at 27 and 31, I think. If
They are.
They're taking a wide receiver with one of those 2 picks.
Absolutely.
Or they package them together and they go get the wide receiver that they don't think is going to last to 27.
You know who else
That's an option.
might still be in play for someone? Allen Robinson was franchised, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He's not happy with the Chicago situation, and so something might happen there after the draft and everybody's sorted things out where he forces or Chicago's willing to part with him in a trade scenario where he gets a long-term contract somewhere else.
I gave you a name earlier this week that made sense for the Indianapolis Colts that you guys all agreed. I'm going to give you a name again that makes sense for the Baltimore Ravens. Liam Eichenberg.
And I've seen him
as a tackle to Baltimore, I think makes sense. I think it's tackle receiver.
Yep.
You can interchange the two wherever they go, but if Eichenberg's there, that's a pick that makes sense for the Ravens and what they need.
They need a go receiver in part because they got turned down by a slew of receivers, including Smith-Schuster, who just don't love the situation there. You're not going to get a ton of targets because it's such a run-centric offense. The quarterback is a runner more than a thrower. He's not a great thrower, Lamar Jackson, outside the numbers. And you're going to have somewhat limited route tree there and opportunities. Now, draft pick doesn't have a choice about going there. So he's going to do it. Hollywood Brown has not been all that they had hoped in his, 2 years now? And they need to diversify.
He's a number 2 receiver.
Yeah, they need to diversify the portfolio and find themselves somebody that's a number 1 that forces them to throw it more.
Washington, could they be on the move tonight for a quarterback? They draft 19th. The thought is that New England, if they don't want the quarterback, if they want to trade down, which Belichick is known for doing, moving around, gaining picks, that could be a spot to move up to 15, move up 4 spots to draft a quarterback. But the thought is also, if Washington truly is in the mix, they need to get ahead of Philadelphia, who drafts 12th. You're going to see the NFC East go 10, 11, 12. And there's a lot of discussion about Washington wanting to get in the mix around that range as well. That's where Detroit, Carolina, and Denver come into the mix for Washington if they truly see a quarterback fall past 5 or 6.
They should want a quarterback. Look, Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to give you some great Sundays, and he's going to give you some miserable Sundays, and it's just not consistent enough. And you mentioned Carolina being better than people think. I think Washington's done a good job with that roster since Ron Rivera's got there. I think we all respect Ron Rivera's work. That's a team that, with a quarterback, could be pretty good pretty fast. And that's a division that's not very good.
And Philly is a team to watch because they have 11 picks.
They're in a soft rebuild.
They can move around.
I've heard a phrase, the soft rebuild.
It's like a soft opening of a restaurant.
Right.
We're not fully ready for you to come in and have customers, but we're getting there. That's kind of where the Eagles are right now.
There's a lot of weird stuff in their front office. Howie Roseman's really running stuff. Sirianni's a puppet. I don't know if you guys read the story about Peterson, but I mean, they had a Tuesday meeting where even if they won, they went over every decision he made and just pounded him, Lurie and Roseman. That's not a very well-functioning organization.
Super Bowl winning coach.
Now. Yeah. 2 years after he won the Super Bowl, he had everything second-guessed every Tuesday.
One thing that came to mind, I want to run this by you guys. The moment I saw the Falcons were possibly shopping Julio Jones or looking to trade down and have a partner, Washington was the first team that popped in mind for me. And it's one that I don't know that if you're Atlanta, you want to go that far back to 19 with a trade partner, but the capital you could get in return and the draft picks you could get in return to make that move, I felt all along, Washington's definitely quarterback needy. There's no way around it. But is that the possible trade partner to move up and get Lance, Fields, Mac Jones, whoever's there at 4 after Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson and whoever's picked at number 3? You get one of the 2 quarterbacks that's left in that spot. Is Washington a possible trade partner as far up as number 4
do what
in
Miami
Atlanta?
did. You trade back further than you want, and then you come back up. They went to 12 and to 6. You go to 19, and then shop yourself back up.
Or they're speaking of trading back. There is the option of gaining picks for 2022, and the value of future picks because this year was so difficult to scout. That next year's draft picks are much more valuable in trade bait tonight.
You had some guys stay,
for
right? You had the potential to stay.
2 more. Detroit, if they trade down, they're targeting Micah Parsons or Jalen Phillips. And Buffalo, if they're moving around for a running back. And they've been tied to Travis Etienne for their system. But there's a running back out of North Carolina, Javonte Williams, who also gives them the speed option like Travis Etienne, maybe a tad bit more. So watch Buffalo at the bottom of this draft and what they could end up doing.
Yeah, I would stay away from running back order bets tonight because of Williams and his potential. I know you know more about Harris and Etienne based on what you've seen on TV and all of that. But Williams could disrupt this order. There are a lot of bets on FanDuel. I've looked at some where you could bet like the order of the first 3 running backs, the first 4 receivers, the first 4 quarterbacks, stuff like that. I'd advise staying a hell away from the running back.
Finally, Pittsburgh at 24. They have, in the last 7 drafts, gone defense. Does that change tonight?
I think it could because I think the run game is their single biggest concern.
Run game was a disaster last year.
And that's offensive line. That screams to me offensive line. I know a lot of people are going running back. I think you need the blocking for the running back before the running back.
Just makes too much sense to me. Najee Harris, a Pittsburgh Steeler, love that pick for them with what they need with their running game a year ago. I think they're going to go offense. I think they go running back.
But they've lost some things on defense too. Bud Dupree, first amongst them. They've also lost some defensive backs. Hilton,
yep.
The former UT guy. another defensive back that left.
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
Cam Sutton.
Cam Sutton.
Yep.
So they've got some replenishing to do on that side of the ball. Never be surprised with Pittsburgh going defense.
FanDuel.com/OK360. We remind you again, you can bet Trevor Lawrence, #1 overall. Bet $5, win $100. FanDuel.com/OK360. Coming up, it is the Tennessee Power Hour. All things Tennessee Titans on draft night. We discuss the options. We go on the clock with our pick, and we tell you who we don't want the Titans to select. Next on OutKick 360. OutKick 360, and just like that, the second hour is here alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Kuharski. I'm Jonathan Hutton, Lance Lee, Jacob Swanson, David Reed making the show happen for us. Becca Risley, Sleepy Danny, and the entire crew with OutKick. Draft night, and we focus on the Tennessee Titans this hour for the Tennessee Power Hour. All the draft props available at FanDuel.com/OK360. Guys, plenty of options for the Titans this evening at pick 22.
So many. I think that there is a real look. You put us through an exercise earlier this week. It was a really smart one by you, and I think we've done a lot of good, fun stuff. I'll take a minute to pat us on the back. But you put up, 8 guys on our screen, and we went through if we thought they'd be available or not available at 22.
Will they be there?
Yeah. And we thought 6 of them or 5 of them were going to be there. I mean, I wrote today in my piece, just running through names. It's conceivable that a decent share of Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney, Caleb Farley, Greg Newsome, Kwity Paye, Zaven Collins, Azeez Ojulari, Tevin Jenkins, that's 8 guys. It's conceivable a good share of those guys are available. It's conceivable that the Titans have a comparable grade on a good share of those guys. John Robinson's traded up too much. So I'm not a big proponent of trading back because I want you to get blue chip guys, and you have a better chance of getting blue chip guys with higher picks. But this roster has been depleted by free agents leaving, by salary cap cuts, by completely bombing on Isaiah Wilson. And you need to fill spots with guys who are going to contribute soon. And you have a better chance of doing that with more picks. If these 8 guys I'm talking about or some kind of assembly of guys like that are available at 22 and somebody wants to come up and you could trade down 4, 5, 6 picks, still get a choice of a couple of these guys, I think a trade down's got to be in play and could be in play.
Yeah, and trading down still puts you in position to draft 1 or 2 of these players.
Yeah. That said, I think a stick and pick is probably more likely. I do not want to see, though, and he's done this several times, he gets his heart set on somebody and he goes up. You can't go up tonight. You just can't. Unless something miraculous happens, unless Devontae Smith is
when I threw that scenario out there, if he falls, that is a player that I think is worth trying to put a package for and moving up a few spots.
But he's not falling to 18. And I think somebody's got to fall to 18 or 17 for you to go get him. I'm not talking about somebody falling to 14. That's costly as hell to go up to 14, and they got too many spots to fill.
We are going on the clock, and just to set this up, we are sticking and picking at 22 for the Tennessee Titans. And coming up, we're going to go through a lot of different scenarios, but we're going to give you our selection and why we feel like it is the best fit for the Tennessee Titans with the 22nd pick. And with the 22nd pick, I'm selecting Zaven Collins, linebacker from Tulsa, and here's why. 6'3", 260, 265, somewhere in that range. He can play behind the line, also on the edge. When the Bears drafted Urlacher, they started him at Sam linebacker. Several analysts have said that this guy reminds them of Devontae Hightower whenever he entered the league. This is a kid who can do not just a lot of things. He does a lot of things well. And because of his elite athleticism, speed, awareness. Let me tell you what John Robinson's going to do when he's on the clock tonight. Let me see this camera. He's going to grab a big dip, and he's going to put it in his bottom lip, and he's going to grab that empty water bottle and turn that card in for Zaven Collins and prop up his feet and say, we just got a lot better, and we're getting after the quarterback, which we sucked at last year. We're going to do it with Bud Dupree, Harold Landry, and Zaven Collins, and we're going to move them all around the field. This defense is known for being creative. At least it used to be a couple of years ago. We're getting back to that with Zaven Collins, linebacker from Tulsa. That's my pick at 22.
The one thing, are we discussing these? I think we should.
Sure. Yeah.
The one thing.
No discussion.
Yeah. Well, I thought maybe we discussed.
We don't discuss things on this show. Just silence.
The one thing about a Zaven Collins pick that I don't think that we've fully considered here either, and about that third edge spot. And I know some people out there will say, well, he's not technically going to be a starter and all of that. Harold Landry is in line to be a free agent in a year. Now, I like Harold Landry a lot. He's not fantastic. He's not great. I don't love him. But you want to retain your own, right? We've said for years and years, if you find even a good pass rusher, you've got to develop him and you've got to keep him because guys don't come free. This year was an exception, and they got a guy like Dupree. But there's a possibility that they can't retain Harold Landry in a year, and you've got to have 2 guys on your roster at least. So, ideally, with a Zaven Collins pick, they would have Dupree, Landry, and Zaven Collins for the long haul. Dupree just signed long term. Zaven Collins would be under your control ideally for 5 years, and you would re-sign Landry. God forbid you don't re-sign Landry. If you don't get a prime young, drafted high guy like Zaven Collins with Zaven Collins traits, you really be in a jam again next year where Bud Dupree is your main guy. You're counting on a second, third round edge guy who you really need to grow. And Landry's potentially walking out the door as a free agent. That's another consideration I think you got to put on a first-round edge rusher like.
Well, let me also throw out too, and I've pointed that out on this show about Zaven Collins and Harold Landry when you said, well, if he earns a second contract, it'll be here with the Tennessee Titans. But not only does it give you depth at that position, when you don't pick up Rashaan Evans' option, and you need options there when his contract expires.
Could be.
This is your guy as well.
He can do both.
He's listed as an
that.
inside linebacker who can rush the passer in a 3-4. Because of that, and this is me betting on a couple of other pass rushers being drafted just before him, and he's on the clock. I think this is the perfect range for him. I'm not opposed. I like him so much. I'm not opposed to moving up 2 or 3 spots to make sure you get him. I love him that much. And he is a playmaker and a difference maker in this defense. They want to talk about being versatile. This is their guy, and he's very good in multiple areas defensively. Just watch him. Just watch him run to the football and tell me that Mike Vrabel and Jim Schwartz and others defensively can't figure out a way to get to the quarterback with him.
I like the player a lot. The versatility thing scares the bleep out of me because these guys talk about it and talk about it. We've heard for 3 years now that Rashaan Evans can rush the passer from the edge. How many times have we seen them put him on the edge?
They've never said that.
Never.
They've never said that,
Oh,
though.
they've said it. They've said it.
They've never said they're going to rush him from the edge.
They've never said they're going to rush him from the edge. They've said repeatedly he can rush from the edge. And last year, where they had nobody that could rush from the edge, they didn't put him out there ever to help rush from the edge, where some tinkering and inventiveness might have actually produced pressure on a crucial third down when they were giving up 52%
Paul, this is where you're
conversion.
comparing the position and not the player. These guys are different players when you watch them play.
I know.
This guy played a lot more than Rashaan Evans in college.
I'm just saying they've talked versatility about a lot of people, and I've never seen them really use it. And so I fear that. I hope that if they draft this guy, he's the one. And we see them use it. But they don't do it.
So you're saying you want a guy who's a specific position.
Well,
and
first and foremost, and I think he's saying the same thing. They want him on the edge. They need him on the edge. Put him at the edge. Then if a year from now he's better in Rashaan Evans' slot, put him there. But first and foremost, I want a guy in a position, because when you move him out of that position, then he needs to be replaced in that position, and who's the replacement?
I'm saying you use his traits in a rookie year to make a difference defensively, and then figure out with some coaching where you want to refine him and place him within your defense. That's not a bad option to have with the first-round pick.
I like the player. I'll get it more into what I'm talking about with the guy I don't want.
There you go.
Okay, good.
May I pick now?
Chad, you're on the clock.
All right, first off, Hutton, great energy on that pick.
Very good.
Sold it so well, you got me amped with that pick. And
Put that dip in.
I've never done dip before in my life, but you made me want to do a dip.
Oh,
and in fact,
J-Rob knows what I'm talking about.
In fact, I wish you would have brought some dip in as a prop.
I don't dip.
In fact, I have something for you. No,
Okay.
I don't have any dip. I've never done it in my life, but seriously, Hutton's sales job was so good.
Very good.
I'd legitimately want to put a dip in as I make this pick, which is the pick of what the Tennessee Titans should do. They need pass rush still. We've been saying this since the dawn of time with this team. We've been saying this probably since Kyle Vandenbosch and before that, Javon Curse. I am taking Azeez Ojulari, edge rusher, Georgia, 22nd overall pick. He's Dane Brugler's top edge rusher in this draft. He's the most polished, refined guy, ready to go day one on the edge in this draft. He's 6'2", 250. He's only 20. Coming in very young, led Georgia in sacks the last 2 years, very productive. He's the only freshman captain under Kirby Smart in his time at Georgia. I know what you're thinking. Chad, you hate Georgia because of the Isaiah Wilson situation and because of the bill of goods that Georgia coaches sold on Isaiah Wilson to Titans coaches. I don't see any of that with Ojulari. Isaiah Wilson, not a freshman captain at Georgia. I don't believe he was a captain at any point. Played only 2 years there, suffered an ACL tear his senior year of high school. He's been injury-free for the most part since. I love this pick. He's a guy you pair with Bud Dupree, and what they did there, I think, immediately affects the quarterback. Titans have to go defense. If the right receiver's there, I can understand you taking that receiver. But I look at this spot as this is a team that's very good on offense and very bad on defense coming into this season. This is a guy that helps you get better right away on defense and helps you do what every NFL team wants to do, but the Titans refuse to do: affect the opposing quarterback. That's what you do with this pick. That's what Azeez Ojulari from Georgia does. That's why he's my 22nd pick.
I'm not averse to this pick, but selling the freshman captaincy as a big thing to me is a huge error. It makes me question who the hell Georgia had in 3 classes ahead of him. Must have been awfully weak. Guys like Isaiah Wilson must have been in there, guys who couldn't lead themselves to water when they were thirsty. If a freshman was to lead them, that's an indictment of the Georgia program to me, not a compliment to Ojulari.
Chad, I really like him. I just don't think he's there. That's why I didn't consider him. I went through my scenarios, and I think, for the 3-4 pass rush and just a specific pass rusher, he's off the board by the time the Titans select.
Yeah, I think it's really hard this year, and I hate people who mock guys who are gone. I wrote an article about this earlier this year when early mocks, everybody was mocking J.C. Horn to the Titans, and I thought there's no way J.C. Horn's going to be there for the Titans. But I do think it's an incredibly hard year to know who's going to be gone. And people may slam me for my pick saying he's going to be gone, though we talked about it earlier, and the over-under's over where the Titans are, so I think that buys me freedom. But wouldn't you agree? It's just very hard to know. I think your guy could also,
Yeah.
And when you're talking about 22,
You trading up for
your
him?
guy could be gone.
You trading up for Azeez
Would you
Ojulari?
trade up for him?
Probably not. I'm hoping
I
he's
like
there.
the honesty.
I'm hoping he's there at 22. But I'll also say this, and I'm with you, Paul, on the not necessarily trusting Kirby Smart when it comes to the character department of the player. But a freshman captain is a big deal, and he's the only one in his time there.
He's a
But
good
what
player.
that Georgia program is one that's produced 22 draft picks in 3 years, including 2 first-round offensive linemen a year ago, one of them being Isaiah Wilson, great running backs. They've produced some great defensive players in the last 3 years under Kirby Smart. They've got talent, I guess is my point. And it's something that I see John Robinson and Mike Vrabel liking. That this guy came in and immediately had a presence about himself that the coaching staff trusted him to the level of making him a captain.
You can't
Again,
dismiss.
I don't have Isaiah Wilson's entire record at Georgia in front of me. I'm going to go on a limb and say he wasn't a captain for Georgia in his time there, and that Georgia was probably playing that game that colleges play of overselling a guy and overhyping him and hiding some of the problems he had there, because I don't believe that Isaiah Wilson's first brush with problems was when he got to the NFL.
Isaiah Wilson is captaining a boat that's
true.
loaded with prostitutes and,
Yes.
and stacks of $1 bills.
Reminds me of the old Love Boat
Right.
deal with the Vikings. Remember that? The old Love Boat, the cruise?
Yeah.
That's what Isaiah Wilson's
Dude,
captain.
I think he's a fine player and would be a fine addition to this team. And it's not like the Titans can eliminate Georgia from consideration based on their one failure, which is on them. It's not
I
on
came
Georgia.
close to doing it. I'm not going to lie. When I saw Georgia and Azeez Ojulari, I almost wanted to come in and say,
GTFO.
I'll tell you who the pick is. It's Azeez Ojulari, but it's not the pick because he went to Georgia, just like Isaiah
Look, we
Wilson.
talked about
But I didn't go that
Eric
hard.
Stokes is over under earlier. I mean,
Yeah.
guys like that, these people all have to be in consideration. It's a case-by-case basis. They had one case that went disastrously wrong. You have to be careful, but you can't make broad sweeping declarations about what you're not going to do. And that factors into my pick.
I go Zaven Collins. Chad goes Azeez Ojulari. Paul Kuharsky, you are on the clock for the Tennessee Titans at 22.
With the 22nd pick for the Titans, I'm living a little bit dangerously, and I'm taking Caleb Farley, the cornerback from Virginia Tech. He's 6'2", 197. He had a patience and an athleticism to him as a collegian that just kept drawing me back. And I couldn't shake him. Guys, I wanted to yesterday, as I was making my conclusion, get away from him. And it was like when you have a dog Chad will hate this, but when you have a dog grabbing your pant leg, you can't get off. I couldn't get off. Look, the back injury, the 2 surgeries are obviously a big concern. You can't make this pick if you're not feeling really good about the medicals. All right, so I'm presuming they're feeling really good about the medicals. I watched his explanation at the Pro Day press conference about his back repairs. Obviously, a guy's going to be convincing in discussing something like that, but he was very convincing in discussing something like that. Had swagger and the confidence I love, both on the field and in how he discussed things. He said he opted out, and intended then to wow people at his pro day to show the progress that he'd made while he's away. And then the timing of his injury obviously blew up his pro day. Do the Titans have to be particularly careful now because they blew their first-round pick last year with the aforementioned Isaiah Wilson? Absolutely. But I don't think that John Robinson is going to take off his shoes and socks and roll up his pant legs and tiptoe around in this draft. He's an aggressive guy. This is an aggressive game. And you need good football players still, right? And I don't think you should want John Robinson now to tiptoe around and say, well, I'm not going to take this guy because he might go bad because of this, and I'm not going to take this guy because he might go bad. You don't want him playing scared now, having blown a pick. If Caleb Farley's back checks out, and I understand it's a big if, I'm going with the scenario where his back checks out, I think it can help transform the secondary, which needs transformation. And he and Janoris Jenkins and Christian Fulton then bat Kevin Johnson down to 4th where he needs to be, and then you've got Breon Borders and the other guys, and you've got a chance here to draft an edge later and put together a defense that has both the elements of a good front and a good back end. Caleb Farley, I think, could be a fantastic NFL cornerback, the type of which we haven't seen in a while.
He's NFL ready. He's NFL ready as an athlete. He's a 2-year starter, an NFL man cover player. He's excellent. My only question, Paul, is if his back checks out, how does he last to 22? If his back checks out.
Yeah, it's a fair question, and I like I said, I hate to mock a guy that's going to be gone, but Vegas has him at 26.5. Now I don't know what Vegas knows about his back. Yeah.
So if he's healthy, how does he last to 22 overall?
Yeah, I don't know. People doing rolling up their pant legs and being scared and tiptoeing.
Because if he's the pick, and I really like him.
Yeah, and you've talked well about him from the beginning.
And I'm all for it. But it is a roll of the dice if he lasts to 22, because that means that Surtain, Horn, probably Newsome are off the board. And other teams that are cornerback needy, and Newsome's more scheme specific with the nickel.
He's not as much a nickel as you say from what I've watched. I would argue.
Oh, he's an inside player. I mean, he's got more speed than some third-round nickels, but I think he's much more inside and more zone than man.
Well, he's the wrong guy for here. If he's
Farley is perfect for the man cover scheme, but if he lasts to 22, you're rolling the dice on medical information. That's just, and you're going to do that anyway if his back checks out because of the medical history that he's had. But elite talent with a ton of concern, and concern we're just not going to know about. What answer to him?
I have no objection to Caleb Farley, the player.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great pick for the Titans. But I can't square the concerns about medical and him still being there. What it means if he's still there. What it means that 21 teams passed on him because he's probably, if not the best, the second best corner prospect in this draft. So what do the other teams know that the Titans don't? What do the Titans know that other teams don't if he's the pick at 22? Do you see what I'm saying there? I don't know. It's hard for me to square that. It's one of those that if you said the Titans traded down, let's say they trade down to 29, 30, that range, and he's still there and it's the pick, I like it more, but I'm still taking a big chance because I'm asking the same question. What does every other team know the Titans don't, or what do the Titans know that every other team doesn't know? And you're taking a big risk there with that question.
I get that question. One thing I'll say is that for some of those teams, they come up to a point where they're choosing between Caleb Farley, who maybe they're okay with, but they also have a better option, an option they like as much at a different position and go that direction. And then when you get to 22, I'm thinking, well, the Titans need a corner badly and like this guy better than Elijah Moore, see more value in him than Elijah Moore, feel like they can get a better receiver in the second or third round than they can get cornerback. And so they pull the trigger, so to speak. Also, I let myself be slightly influenced by this, and I admit this is dumb thinking, right? How many John Robinson first rounders have they signed a second contract, right? Harold Landry hopefully will be one. And it's largely because the players haven't been good enough, but Corey Davis left now. Could they be satisfied with 4 or 5 years out of a first-round pick? And if that's his lifespan, so to speak, because of the back, and they get 4 or 5 good years out of Caleb Farley in this window, could that be enough? That we know that's not the ideal scenario, and you want a 2-contract guy, 3-contract guy, ideally. But that's not what's been happening with this team. But at this point with this team, if you got a 5-year cornerback who played a great 5-year career with you, that'd be some progress for me.
The picks are in. Caleb Farley for Paul, Zaven Collins for me. Chad going with Azeez Ojulari. A lot of discussion on this on Twitter. We're going to hit that during a quick break. Also, when we come back, we told you who we want and who we would select at 22 overall. We're about to tell you who we don't want and why. And then we get into some scenarios for the Tennessee Titans as they go on the clock at pick 22 by comparing other players that we haven't previously discussed. Next on OutKick 360. It is draft day on OutKick 360 alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Kuharski. I'm Jonathan Hutton. Glad you're with us wherever you're watching. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate that. We hope you'll subscribe to the channel. You hit the notification icon, that bell. Ring the bell like Paul will ring the bell, and you can be notified every time we go live with any type of content that's posted to the YouTube channel. Same goes for Facebook. We hope you'll share the feed, like the page. When we go live at OutKick 360 on Facebook, you can join the discussion and drop a comment, a like, a share, a retweet on Twitter, whatever it might be, at OutKick 360. So we've told you who we would select at number 22 overall for the Titans as they go on the clock tonight in the 2021 NFL Draft. But how about who we don't want? And Chad's going to close things out and speak on behalf of all of us and practically 99% of Nashville, I think. But, guys, I'll kick it off with who I don't want the Titans to select. And if he falls, it's Kwity Paye from Michigan. He's talented, but the more and more I watch him, the more and more I don't think he's what the Titans need right now. He's a 4-3 guy. He's an inside player on the line of scrimmage in sub packages. And unlike some of the other pass rushers, he's built more like a square. And that's not a knock to him. I think he's going to be a solid player in a 4-3. He's not long. He's very stocky, and he's jarring at the line of scrimmage, which, leads to everyone saying, you know what? He's really strong against the run. I don't want that player in the first round. I don't want him. I want a guy that's going to get after the quarterback on third down. This guy is great at disrupting at the line of scrimmage. Enough of that. I want someone that's going to get the quarterback on the ground in the 3-4 as an outside linebacker, and I have a hard time ever seeing him playing from a two-point stance. That's why I don't want Kwity Paye to the Titans, because he's going to be with a hand on the ground on the end of the line. I want someone that's standing up and rushing on third down.
Like it. I do not want, and I've not heard this guy's name for a while, so maybe he's sunken out of range. But that doesn't mean that the Titans wouldn't. I mean, nobody thought Adoree Jackson was going at 18, really.
Yeah, you're right.
Until the end. I do not want any whiff of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He is, listen, and I've hit on this time and time
Credit
again.
to Paul for picking the most difficult names to pronounce,
Well done.
too. That's very well done.
Look, the big thing about him is he's got the flexibility to deploy at linebacker, safety, or nickel. And here's my issue with a guy like this, and I understand this versatility is becoming very in vogue. But say that you're playing him at linebacker on 1st and 10. I mean, I think this is the way people are talking about him, as a chess piece that you would move situationally. I don't think people are saying, like, you could bring him in and make him your linebacker, or bring him in and make him your safety, or bring him in and make him your nickel. They're saying over the course of a game, you could play him at all of these different spots. And it sounds good in theory. But I think it strains your roster, because you play him at 1st and 10 at linebacker, and you play him on 2nd and 6 at safety. Well, now your safety's coming off the field, and you need another linebacker to come on the field, conceivably, unless you're reshaping your defensive formation. Now, on 3rd and 4, he's at nickel. Well, so do you have a nickel back or do you not have a nickel back? And who's the safety that's coming on and off the field, and who's the linebacker that's coming on and off the field? And are you not drafting a linebacker to be a full-time linebacker? Or are you not drafting a safety to be a full-time safety? And are you not drafting a nickel to be the nickel? All of this versatility, to me, weakens what you need, have, or want at all these other positions. And to me, it waters down the whole thing. Call me crazy. I want a team to have a nickelback that plays nickelback most of the time. And if you don't have one, then maybe it's because you have a nickelback that covers a small receiver who goes to the slot versus a big tight end that's in the slot. That's fine. I want you to have a linebacker that plays linebacker most of the time. Maybe comes off in certain situations. I want you to have a safety that's a full-time safety. I'm crazy this way. But if you've got this guy who's moving to all of these positions, what about all those other guys? I pass.
Very well done. Is it my turn?
I agree with what Paul's saying on him. Yes,
Yeah.
Chad,
That's not someone I've seen mocked anywhere to the Titans. Have you seen it from someone that he's a possibility?
Earlier, more so than recently. But, plugging into this, Vrabel as a guy who could play with a toy concept.
I'm surprised if he is drafted tonight, that player, Owusu.
Yeah, but again, I think that there's a lot we don't know about what could unfold. And put him down for the second round, I don't want him either.
I think you went very safe because the Titans are definitely not going to pick that guy. But still, I agree with your stance on it. I'm going to go and speak for all of Titan Nation. Is it a nation? Is it a province?
They call it a nation. It's not.
Is it a township? Is it incorporated?
I
don't care what it is.
Province.
I think that I'm speaking for most Titans fans. When I'm not picking a player, I'm picking an entire damn position. And the position is this: offensive tackles. I don't want to see one offensive tackle taken. For the very reason we're showing on the screen right now, if you're watching, it's the lazy panda. Because of this derelict on screen that did nothing in his time as a Titan, because this guy and this pick helped possibly destroy the Titans' chances for greatness in the next 2 or 3 years. And I'm not overspeaking when I say that. This set this franchise back, and we're only going to see the repercussions of it, maybe not even this year, but the year after that and the year after that. I don't want to see a damn right tackle taken in the first round. You traded up to get a right tackle who was a really good offensive guard in Jack Conklin. And guess what? You trade up to get a guy who's going to be here for 15 or 20 years. That's a kicker. 10 years, let's say. That didn't happen with Jack Conklin. He's not here. Then you draft another right tackle. And what did we hear about Isaiah Wilson? He is a man amongst boys. This guy gets out there and mauls people. He's got an angry disposition on the field, but he's got a hearty chuckle off the field. And his personality is terrific. I don't want to hear about that anymore. I don't care if this dude from Oklahoma State, who I don't care enough about to even learn his name, I don't care if he's a mauler on the field. Do not pick offensive tackle in the first round. If you do, you're taking a chance on setting this franchise even further back. It's not your top need. Is it a need? Absolutely. Let me tell you how the league values offensive tackle in the draft. 10 of 32 teams, 10, that's less than a third for people that don't study math. They have a first-round pick playing right tackle for them. That's it. This is a second, third, fourth, fifth-round pick, and you can plug and play at offensive tackle. Left tackle, more important. Right-handed quarterback, left tackle, blind side, more important. We learned that in the movie. We learned that in the book, The Blind Side, also. A lot of first-round picks at left tackle. The teams that have a first-round pick at right tackle, not exactly murderer's row. The Atlanta Falcons, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns with the great Jack Conklin, who the Titans traded up to get, the Houston Texans, the Los Angeles Chargers, the New Orleans Saints, Philadelphia Eagles, San Francisco 49ers, and the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The exception, not the rule. The rule tonight is this: do not take an offensive tackle in the first round. Please, I beg of you. Titans Nation, Titans Incorporated, whatever they are, begs you, do not take any offensive tackle. And I'm going to show it one more time. It's because of this guy on the screen right now, the lazy panda. If we had the audio of his track that he dropped this week and that terrible sound of his voice, we'd play it. But I'll tell you, don't take offensive tackle.
That is actually that's him practicing his extra point blocking
Well
right
done.
there, Paul.
Make up
On the
for it.
ground.
I said this earlier this week. Make up for it in creative ways. Kendall Lamb seems to me to be at least a temporary solution. But and look, the depth is an issue. But make up
They
for
have
it
to
in
go
creative
with the
ways.
position
Find
some
a
at some
guy
point.
in the third or fourth round. Do a good job with selling that you've got an open spot with your undrafted free agents. Comb the damn practice squads around the league in a way that you failed to do last year, and find somebody. Go find somebody.
Well, find someone in the draft, but not at 22.
Create find a fourth rounder, and give him competition.
I mean, I'm sure the kid from Oklahoma State, I probably went too hard on him, will be a great player someday somewhere.
Well,
You
he's
just can't-
described as having the same the same way that Isaiah Wilson is. He suffers for that.
I don't think this
not
is
fair.
like this is like if you're betting on a certain sport and you continue to lose at that sport and you're like, you know what, I'm tripling down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it right eventually. I'm gonna go hard on this next game and I'm gonna double down on it. I think that is the equivalent if John Robinson takes an offensive tackle night. John Robinson's done a very good job in a number of areas. His right tackle picks have been disasters. Jack Conklin, if he's that
He's
good,
all pro as a rookie.
okay, great. If you trade up to get a guy with the capital they had and what they could have done with extra picks, you trade up to get a guy, he's here for a long time. He's a top 10 pick at tackle. Paul, I'll ask you, how many franchises trade up to draft an offensive lineman in the top 10 and don't have the guy? How long was he here? 4 years, 5 years?
4 years. They didn't exercise his fifth-year option, but he's been an All-Pro in his
Towards
first
ACL.
year. out of
Can you
here.
name?
It was injury problem.
Can you name many franchises you'd call that a successful pick?
You can't call it an unsuccessful pick.
I can call it
Guy's
an
a
unsuccessful
two-time
pick.
All-Pro. He identified talent.
He was here for
correctly.
4 years.
He identified
He's
talent
a one-time,
correctly.
well, two-time All-Pro. You're saying this past year in
Yeah.
Cleveland.
He's a,
One
he
time he was an
identified
All-Pro his
talent.
rookie year here in Nashville.
Either way, I would say very confidently that the two right tackles taken in the first round by John Robinson have not worked out.
Have not worked out.
One
long-term.
to a maybe an all-time bust level, and another that you didn't pick up a fifth-year option on.
Well, and you can say they drafted Isaiah Wilson because they didn't have Jack Conklin.
Yeah, because they didn't.
It led, you could
retain.
tie in that Wilson's only here because they didn't retain Conklin.
Well, the
with
mistake
contract.
is.
What
the
do you guys
mistake,
think
if you
is the
trade that
reaction
back,
if they draft a tackle?
Pitchfork. I mean, there's some people that are okay with it, but pitchforks and torches. Yeah.
I think what you're going to have is a lot of people who cover the Titans immediately defending John Robinson and attacking fans
I won't.
for being upset with it. I'm not saying you will, but I do think that's going to be, oh, this guy knows more than you. Like, that's going to be the immediate thing. Why are fans so upset with this pick? Fans have a right to be upset with that pick, I believe, if that, in fact, is – I don't think it will be.
Here's one of the reasons.
But if it is, that's going to be a
Here's
problem.
one of the reasons you don't draft a right tackle in the first round, is because that fifth-year option is an unattractive number for a right tackle. You draft him in the second round, you negotiate a second contract. It's a better scenario, I think, than having fifth-year control at a very unreasonable number.
Coming up, we give more discussion to the 22nd pick and wide receiver options for the Titans, how that would fit within this offense, and some other positional needs that could fall to that. And we will discuss the option of trading back and gaining some more top 100 overall selections to the 4 that they currently have. That's next on OutKick 360. OutKick 360 NFL Draft tonight. We will have full coverage and reaction all day tomorrow as well. We are live every day at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central across the OutKick network, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. And if you're listening on the podcast, you can find the podcast wherever you download your podcast. You name it, search out OutKick 360, and we hope you'll leave a rating, a review, and we hope you'll subscribe.
This has been a fun show. Definitely go back any way you can get us on podcast, watching the video feed on YouTube or Twitter. Definitely do that. On the YouTube feed right now, Lance and Jacob alerted me that there's yet more controversy about my shoes. Guys, quickly, what can you tell us about this?
We had a suggestion that the Titans draft Chad a new pair of shoes.
Yes. That's what happens.
With the 22nd pick and the 22nd pair,
it's amazing. We got bigger things to get to, but how divisive these shoes are, and it makes me almost want to put my shoes on this table to display them the entire time. People either absolutely hate them or absolutely love them. It's incredible.
How do you feel about wide receiver to the Titans at 22? Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney, Rashad Bateman has been mocked to the Tennessee Titans quite a bit recently. And all fitting the idea that you get a plug-and-play player. We have said they have a big need for the position. Do they go first round?
They lost a lot in the pass-catching area with Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith, both departing as free agents. So they clearly need help there. John Robinson said the depth of wide receiver value over the course of the draft is bigger than corner. Those are probably the two biggest needs with the edge in there as well. They're coming out of this with a receiver or ideally two.
Yeah.
I won't have a problem if they love a wide receiver and go wide receiver at 22. Elijah Moore's intriguing. He's probably the most popular mock pick right now. Huge endorsement from A.J. Brown. Not that carries significant weight, but they obviously hit a home run with the last wide receiver they took from Ole Miss. Kadarius Toney, I was talking to David Reed about this yesterday. He's come to strike me as a little too gimmicky.
But he's physical, though. Elijah Moore is too, but Toney, he is gimmicky. But he's more than just a guy that you're going to hand the ball to on sweeps
not just
let him
gimmicky,
throw it.
Not just gimmicky, but are you going to have to manufacture too much of a share of his touches? I don't know, but
makes sense for the Saints. I've seen that mock a few times with Toney and the Saints. I'm thinking Sean Payton would find a way to utilize this guy, and he would do very well in that offense.
But if good offensive coordinators can find a way
then
he should be considered here.
I totally agree. This is why I have this big objection to Mac Jones as the Kyle Shanahan quarterback. And I'm thinking, if Justin Fields is the better quarterback, then he should take Justin Fields because he's a good offensive mind that can find something better to do with a better quarterback.
Chad hates Bateman. He's been mocked there too. As
Hate's a strong word, Paul.
Precise guy.
I hate the idea of offensive tackle tonight.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
I hate Isaiah Wilson.
Dislikes Bateman as a guy at 22, but he's another guy that could be in consideration there. Precise route runner, but very much probably a number 2. And you'd like, if you're spending at 22, either a number 1 potential guy or a very explosive slot type that gives you a dynamic that's beyond what you have, who would complement A.J. Brown and the other things that they have. They've got to come out of this draft with a guy like that, and there are other guys like that you'll find in the second, third round.
Since we talked a little bit about Titans fan reaction to what it would be at tackle, which would be miserable fan reaction to that, I think it's always going to be positive if it's a player like a receiver, someone that gets their hands on the football, because that's what fans like, and they can immediately envision, touchdown catches with a guy. So I think that would be a popular pick, whoever the receiver is.
Elijah Moore would be well received.
If they take absolutely.
Yes.
Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney. I think any of the receivers they take. Even Rashad Bateman, who I don't like out of that group of receivers, would probably get a positive response from the fans. But that is, to me, clear-cut number 3 in the pecking order of needs and what they should do. And the top 2 are both defensive.
Because you're big into Westbrook-Akina.
Huge Westbrook-Akina.
Backup.
I really think he could be the number 2.
Yeah, number 2, sorry. Paul, a player that we discussed earlier this week, we have not even mentioned today, Christian Barmore. Did you consider him for your selection after
I
discussion
considered my selection a month ago. The more I've read and heard about the maturity concerns, that's an area. Look, I took a risk with my pick on the injury front, saying, if you find a clean report, you can go there. I don't think they can go anywhere near a maturity concern. And look, I understand Nick Saban saying it's clean, but there's a lot of talk about maturity concerns with Barmore. That paired with only 6 starts, yeah, he's very intriguing. He was very good against Ohio State. He's a penetrator. I'd steer clear. I thought about making him my guy. I don't want.
Not a huge fan of it.
You know how I feel about Kwity Paye, so I don't want a line of scrimmage player. I don't want a disruptor. I don't want someone that's going to muddy the waters. I want a shark. I want someone that's going to get in there and get after the quarterback on third down.
That's why I like the idea of Azeez Ojulari, Zaven Collins, a lot more than a guy who's
Caleb Farley helps on third down too. I mean I like all of our picks. I'm totally fine.
Quarterback also.
I'm totally fine with any of the 3 at 22. And finally, trading down, the option of currently 4 in the top 100. If you can turn that into 5 or 6 in the top 135, do you do it based on the? We had the graphic earlier this week on. Are they there at 22? And we all agree that there they are. There's a group of players. If these guys are available, if you have 5 of these names available at 22. The options of trading down, you can still stay in the first round.
Oh, yeah.
You can trade down.
And the other thing is you have to think, like if 5 of these guys are available and you move down 5 slots, not all 5 of those guys are coming off the board. Right. Other players are going to come off too, and you'll have 3 of those, or at least 2 of those, to choose from. Look, if they trade down and still get somebody they love, they're going to tell us they still get somebody they love.
Every team will.
But odds are that you do.
That's to be expected.
Odds are that you do. I'd be comfortable with that. But I'm firmly a quality over quantity guy. This year, though, quantity could sure as hell help you. I think Mike Herndon said it John Robinson's batting average is not bad. He just hasn't had enough swings because he trades up too often. And you can't do things like trade up for Dane Cruikshank, in my estimation. At least Evans and Landry are really going for it. You're not in a position to really go for it now. And don't be trading up for bit part players like Dane Cruikshank.
Late in drafts, packaging things together. But it's time to hit on this is a huge, I can't overstate this. This is a massive selection for the Titans tonight. This determines impactful third down options. Offensively, another weapon they lost a lot of production offensively. They've got to hit on this guy. This is not some player that there's going to sit around and wait and see what happens and, oh, you know what, he's coming along well and we're going to see him by week 8. No.
Impact.
This guy needs to be impactful for the Titans in week 1 in September. And that means in the lineup, making plays, contributing. This guy is going to be a big reason why or why not they do or don't take that step.
Yeah.
I don't think really any team in the NFL can treat a pick as a luxury pick. Sometimes you hear about that. Maybe Tampa with all 22 starters coming back, whoever they take at the end of the first round, sort of a luxury pick. I don't really see it that way. The Titans are absolutely not in a spot, as Hutton just said, for a luxury pick. This has to be an immediate impact guy, whoever they take.
Look, I don't want to make it sound dire. They went to the playoffs last year. But the way the roster's shaped up right now, today and tomorrow, this is a team spelling out help with rocks on an island. They need the guys in the plane flying overhead to land and help right away.
This is a different mindset than what Washington has. Washington made the playoffs last year. This should be about a pick that you're truly taking the next step around a window of opportunity that remains open after 2 years ago making a run to the AFC Championship game. If this is about winning the ultimate prize, make the right pick tonight and have someone that's going to help you do that, help you win football games. They didn't have that guy defensively last year that, maybe they could have in redrafting when they take Isaiah Wilson. That's going to help you on third down. It was a miserable third down defense. It's time to affect the quarterback.
Derrick Henry's not running like this forever. The cliff comes for everybody, even a freak of nature like him. As long as he's running like this, you got to get people to surround him and go get the prize.
And
because after he's done, you don't have a lot.
In closing, it's not just about one pick. It's about the entire class. But the top 4 picks, and we've had the exercises, the top 100 picks as they select right now, they've got to hit on this upper class of the class of 2021. These guys are going to fill depth, but they're also going to be starting contributors. That's the importance, and it starts with who they, and it shapes how they're going to address tomorrow night with what they do at pick 22. I can't wait. Now, I'll have to wait, but I can't wait to see how this draft unfolds.
Will you
Can't wait
watching
to
your
see what
garage?
happens, and I also can't wait to come back here tomorrow and talk about everything.
Will you watch in your garage?
I will watch wherever I please, and I won't be ridiculed for it if I choose to watch it in my garage tonight.
That's right. You can
with a group of people.
That's
Freedom.
right. You can go and watch and do work for this show and this company without free of ridicule.
That's right.
About who you're watching with.
That's right.
I'll be there.
Secret.
I'll be there at 6.
Come on over. Let's go.
And guess what? We're going to be inside and we're going to be under the covers wherever we are. In a bed somewhere. That close. That's how close we're going to be.
A little TMI.
Yeah.
So as soon as we get a minute or two past 1 o'clock, Chad just over.
You know what?
It's bonus time, baby.
It's bonus time. Hand me that bottle right there. It is bonus time.
Oh,
we're gonna do
it. It's NFL draft time. That's yours. We're gonna try the Bellmead honey for the first time, which was gifted to me by my aunt. And
this
that
is
people
super
covet.
special.
People covet from Bell Mead. They make 100. They make 1 barrel of this per year.
Don't cut this off early like you did last time we drank.
This is true bonus coverage we're getting right here.
Chad, you take this one.
Okay, I will.
And then Lance and Jakob, you have your cups. We can do
I've got an extra one over here.
Whatever you need to do here.
We just need 1 Dixie. We got 1 extra.
So we'll set the honey bourbon down.
And Hutton is not lying. This is a delicacy. This is something that's highly sought after.
Oh, sorry.
I love
There
that
you
the people get to see Jakob Swanson now.
Yeah,
too.
look at
The
it.
side profile.
Thank you, Jakob.
Looks terrific.
Take that back there with you.
Will do.
Do as you please. Guys,
The
cheers.
bouquet.
Cheers to a big night,
Good show.
fun show.
I'll kick it.
Cheers to the draft. Enjoy it through OutKick. We're back at it tomorrow, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, reacting to everything, all the big headlines on OutKick 360.
Don't block the
Cheers.
box. Do lock the locks.
Bang, bang.